What is going on, everyone? My name is the California Cougar, and welcome back to another Survivor season review. We are on season 32, guys. We are 32 seasons into this series, and we don't have a lot left. We only have 8 seasons left, so yeah, we're not far from the end of it. But anyway, today we are talking about Survivor Kaôh Rōng. This is the 32nd season of Survivor. And like the previous season, this one takes place in Cambodia. And this is another Brains versus Brawns versus Beauties season. So, yeah, basically kind of like Survivor Kaôh Rōng, except different castaways. All new castaways, might I add. So, let's get right into this season, shall we? Now, first off, a lot of people love this season. And it's not too hard to see why, but then again, it kind of is, because I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of this season. I'm really not. Even after a rewatch, I'm still just really not a fan of it. Part of it is the lackluster cast. I don't really feel like there's a lot going with this cast. There's a couple good characters in there, but in terms of like overall gameplay, it was kind of weak, if I'm being completely honest here. Like, the gameplay was just kind of weak. Not really a lot of great players this season. So, let's get into this cast. Starting off with the Brawn Tribe. This was the tribe that was basically the equivalent of the Brawn Tribe in Kaôh Rōng. This was the tribe that was always losing challenges and all that. So, you have Darnell. I mean, he was there, he was whatever, didn't really care for him as a first boot all that much. You also had Jennifer. Her implosion at Tribal Council was amazing. Basically, she reveals her entire plan, and then it just all goes to hell. So that was an entertaining part. Like, Jennifer's plan just blowing up in her face, and her mentioning that she wanted to go after the guys. Like, later on, that just completely blew up in her face. So that was entertaining. Alicia, she was there for a short time. She was entertaining while she was there. Kind of a snotty bitch, though, if you ask me. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing her again just to see her on a better tribe, because she kind of was the weak link of that tribe. Not really sure why she was on the Brawn Tribe and not the Beauty Tribe, given her looks. I mean, she was a hot girl. She wasn't really a Brawn type of player. At least she didn't come off like that to me. But yeah, like, she was okay, I guess. She was kind of a bitch, and I could see why, because everyone was going after her, but then again, it's really not an excuse. It's a game, come on. So, yeah, and then you have the main three. You have Scott, Jason, and Sydney. Sydney, she was alright. She was fun to watch for a while. She definitely pulled her weight in a lot of the challenges. She was probably the driving force of that Brawn Tribe at the beginning of the game. So, yeah, she was strong. She was fun to watch. Scott and Jason, they were probably the best characters of the season. They were super entertaining. They were very good villains. Like, yeah, they did kind of bully Alicia around at the beginning, but I didn't really think they were that bad. And then later on in the season, with their backs up against the wall, they decided to pour the water on the fire. I thought that was funny. And then, like, they even got Ty to do it as well. So, yeah, we'll talk about Ty in a second. But, yeah, I thought they were hilarious. Their whole monologue at, I forgot which tribal it was. I think it was Final 9. Like, their whole monologue about the idols. Like, this idol's got a brother! Jason's holding the other half of the idol up. Or the other idol up, I should say. Like their whole thing was hilarious. And then, like, they gave the idols to Ty, and then he's like, Ty's like, I'm gonna sit down. So that was funny. That was really funny. And yeah, I thought they were fun characters to watch throughout the season. They were villains, but they were entertaining villains. So yeah, there's that. The Beauty Tribe. So the Beauty Tribe, oh man, poor old Caleb. Heat stroke is no joke, and he just got caught up with it. It was like 114 degrees out or something like that during a challenge where they had to dig in the sand. So it's super hot. Caleb catches heat stroke during the challenge. That whole challenge, we'll talk about that challenge. But yeah, that was an exhausting challenge. But yeah, like he catches heat stroke and he gets medevaced from the game, which is very unfortunate for him. And the 3 girls on the Beauty Tribe, all 3 of them, they were fun to watch for a while. Anna was kind of screwed over by a swap, unfortunately. Like, she got swapped onto a tribe where she was in the minority. So, yeah, her exit was rather unfortunate. Julia, like, as the independent free agent type of player, she was fun to watch, especially in the merge when she kind of pandered towards Jason and Scott that whole time. She didn't really care. She was an independent free agent type of player. And so was Michelle for the most part, although Michelle didn't like Jason and Scott quite as much. But yeah, like Michelle. And Michelle is probably one of the most underrated winners in Survivor history in my eyes. Her social game was amazing. She formed relationships with pretty much everybody throughout the entire season, and she was really good at challenges too, especially toward the end. Like, she just got stronger as she went along, and her strategic game was solid too. I think it was overshadowed by Aubry a little bit, but I mean, it was still a very strong game. Definitely, I think she's one of the most underrated winners in the show's history, if you ask me. So yeah, and I think she deserved the win. A lot of people say Aubry should have won. I think Michelle deserved it. I really do. I think Aubrey's one of the most overrated players we've ever seen, and we'll talk about her more in depth in a little bit, but yeah, so yeah, there's that. And then Nick was alright. I mean, he could have been a big villain type of player along with Jason and Scott. Unfortunately, he ended up getting voted out, and that is when Jason and Scott really became the main villains of the season. But Nick was a fun player to watch for a while. And then you have Ty, probably one of the more strategic players this season. He was the one that was always looking for idols and advantages, trying to win some challenges. He did win a couple challenges as well. Like, he tried to be like a very Yao Man-esque type of player. He reminded me a lot of Yao Man that season. So yeah, he was a good player to watch. Unfortunately, he did misuse his advantages, which doomed him in the end. But yeah, he was a fun player to watch. I was rooting for him as well. Now you got the Brawn Tribe. The Brawn Tribe this season, I just wasn't really a fan of any of them. I mean, you have Liz and Pete, kind of the outsiders of the pre-merge, I should say. I mean, Liz apparently was the one player with an IQ of 140 or something like that. She was okay. Pete, same thing. Pete really didn't do much for me, though. I mean, he was okay. Kind of a arrogant asshole, but that's really all he was there for, it seemed like. Neil, kind of the same as Aubry. I think he was overrated. He didn't really do much for me. He did get an idol, and then he got medevaced, which was really unfortunate. I would have liked to see him in the post-merge and see how well he could have played. But he did make history by becoming the first ever jury member to get voted off. We'll talk about that twist in a little bit. But yeah, like Neil, he was okay, I guess. Same with Aubry. Neither of them did much for me. Which leads me to Aubry. Probably one of the most overrated players I think I've seen in a while. She didn't really do anything. She had to have a lot of people help her out. Ty specifically helped her out a lot. She would not have made it as far as she did without all the help she got from Neil, Ty, Michelle, and Julia. Even like they helped her get as far as she did. Like, she shouldn't have made it that far. There were so many times where she was supposed to get voted off, but she didn't because she just got lucky. Like, that's really all it is. Other players wouldn't have given her that much luck. They would have seen her as a bigger threat, I think. And she was a threat. She could have won this game. She really could have. But she just made all the wrong moves at the wrong time as well. I don't think she ever had an idol. And like Sydney was another player that kind of pandered to her. Like, a lot of players just pandered to her, and that's really why I don't think she's as good as she could have been. I mean, in her later seasons, she kind of showed that. She didn't really do anything. So, yeah, I really think she's one of the more overrated players of the season. They tried to set up this big underdog story with her, and it did not work with me. I'm sorry. But, yeah, so that's Aubry for you. I already talked about Liz and Pete and Neil. Joe, he was just there. I mean, literally, he was just there. He didn't do a thing. He was just a 71-year-old man that was just there to be an extra vote. He never defected from any of his alliances, so I guess he was loyal. He refused to defect from any of his alliances. He was not a good player. And I am, as much as I hate to say this, I am kind of glad he got medevaced at Final 5. Obviously, you never want to see anybody get sick or get hurt, but if he wasn't medevaced at Final 5, he was going to the Final 3, 100%. He was absolutely going to the Final 3, because nobody was going to vote for him. He was the obvious GOAT of the season. So, yeah, he did absolutely nothing to contribute to the season. And then you have Debbie, quite possibly one of the most annoying players I think I've ever seen. She is the woman who had 15 different jobs titles or something like that. Whenever her name came up, she was a chemist at one point. She was a teacher at one point. I think she was some sort of athlete. I don't freaking know. She always bragged about it every time, and her mannerisms was just, ugh, kill me. Freaking kill me. Didn't care for her at all. It was so satisfying seeing her ass get completely blindsided at Final 9 by the people that... Aubry was a part of that. That was probably the best move Aubry made this season. She was a part of that. That was the best move of the entire season in my eyes, was her blindside. Because she was a GOAT going to the Final 3 as well. It was going to be her, Joe, and Aubry, I think. At least that's what Aubry wanted. But then Aubry ended up turning on her. Thank God. Because she was absolutely insufferable and would have made the rest of the season pretty much unwatchable. So thank God she was voted out when she was. So yeah, that's the cast. It's whatever. I do think Michelle and Ty were the best players that season. But everyone else was just kind of meh. Didn't really care for them. Aubry and Neil were probably up there, but that's just because of how weak the cast was. Scott and Jason were there to be villains. That's really what their purpose was. So, yeah. Didn't really care for much of this cast at all. Some of the moments this season. Like I said, I mentioned 3 medevacs. This is the season with the most medevacs in Survivor history, with 3 of them. Neil was medevac, Caleb was medevac, and Joe was medevac. Neil was medevac at the merge, so he was medevac at an important time in the game. What could have been a big turning point of the season. Unfortunately, that wasn't really the case. Joe, no one really cared about him to begin with, so who really cares? And then, of course, Caleb's medevac. That challenge, man, it was at the very beginning of the game, essentially. That challenge, 3 people went down that challenge. Caleb was just one of them. He won the challenge for the Beauty Tribe, and then Debbie and Sydney also went down on the Brain and Brawn Tribe, respectively. Yeah, they also went down. Luckily for Sydney and Debbie, they were able to get back, or they were able to be, quote-unquote, revived before anything horrible happened to them. They were all given water, and they were all given treatment by the medical staff as well. Jason was comforting Sydney the whole time. It was wild. That challenge was just absolutely wild. Unfortunately for Caleb, he couldn't recover in time to be deemed able to continue playing. He had severe heat stroke at that point, and he just had to be pulled from the game. Very unfortunate, because I would have liked to see Caleb go a lot farther than he did in the game. And, of course, I already mentioned Debbie and Sydney as well. They recovered. They were able to continue playing the game. But yeah, that whole scene was just wild. It took up the entire second half of the episode, along with the rest of the challenge. And you could just see how exhausted everyone was. Jason, Scott, Alicia on the Brawn Tribe. Pete was exhausted. Nick was exhausted. You could see just the exhaustion on everybody. It was very hot that day. The challenge was very demanding. And yeah, it just took a lot out of them. So yeah, that's one thing. I kind of talked about Jason and Scott already. Like, they were villains. Scott's blindside was cool, I guess. But it was kind of anticlimactic because Ty just kept flip-flopping. Like, he wanted to stay with Jason and Scott, but then he decided to go with Aubry. And I think that's what ultimately doomed his game. He got all these advantages. Extra vote as well. He misused that to try and get Michelle out. That didn't work. And then his idol misusage. Like, Jason and Scott give him 2 idols, essentially. So he's holding on to 2 idols in case they want to use the super idol at that tribal. And then Debbie goes home that night. Like, that blindside was great. That whole tribal was entertaining. That was probably the best part. And then he just, like, he gives his idol back to Scott, I think, or no, he gave it back to Jason. Jason won immunity for the next tribal. And then Jason ended up giving his idol to Scott because, well, he had immunity. So, yeah. And then, like, Scott's at risk of getting voted out. He gets all the votes, and then Ty doesn't give him the idols, or his idol. So, and he voted for Scott. So, yeah, it was very unfortunate to see Scott go like that. It could have been a great tribal, but that was a huge missed opportunity by Ty there, I think. So yeah, very unfortunate to see Scott go the time he did. I don't think he ever was going to win because he was kind of a bully, but yeah, it would have been fun to see him go a lot farther. I already talked about Neil's injury. Like, he has a big welt on his leg. Aubry had a big welt on her leg as well, but hers wasn't really infected, so the medics cleared her okay to continue. Like, a lot of medical stuff this season. It was crazy how much medical stuff was going on this season. And then we have to talk about the major twist this season that probably changed the entire game. And, like, changed who was going to win the game. And it ultimately doomed Aubry. And that's the voting off the jury member twist. Basically, at Final Four, Sydney and Aubry were in a fire challenge. Aubry ultimately won, but that challenge was on day 37. So I think initially people thought it was going to be a Final 2. But they go to this challenge, and it's like, no, you guys are the Final 3. This challenge, the winner of this challenge, gets to vote off a jury member. Michelle wins the challenge, and she chooses to vote off Neil, which I think was the best option for her to vote off because Neil did say he was going to be a big advocate for Aubry. And I do think it ultimately doomed Aubry's chances because everyone else praised Michelle for it at the final tribal. Scott and Jason in particular praised her for it. And she ended up getting all the votes. And once again, I think she's a super underrated winner. Joe voted for Aubry because he's no-brain Joe, as I like to call him. Like, he didn't really care. He voted for a Brawn Tribe member. And I think Nick voted for Aubry as well. Not really sure what his thing was with voting for Aubry, but I guess a couple people had to vote for Aubry. But yeah, Michelle ended up winning the game. It was nice to see an underdog like Michelle win the game. Like, she won that Final Four immunity challenge as well, where she kicked over the puzzle. So, yeah, like, it was decent. But unfortunately, other than, like, the tribal council where Debbie gets voted off, the final juror, and then, like, the challenge where 3 people go down, 1 gets medevaced, there really wasn't anything that memorable about this season. You have Ty constantly misplaying advantages, Aubry constantly, like, not being in the right state of mind, like, trying to be this underdog character. That didn't work. Everyone saw right through that. Like, Michelle was really the main highlight among the cast, and, like, there really weren't that many moments. The highlights were 3 people getting medevaced, and I guess the Debbie blindside, but that's really it. And, like, I guess the Scott blindside for all the wrong reasons. Scott had an idol in his pocket but didn't play it. But yeah, like, I just was not a fan of this season, so I'm sorry to say that, but Survivor Kaôh Rōng disappointed me. With that being said, it doesn't live up to the previous Brawn Beauty season. I'm going to give Survivor Kaôh Rōng a 4 out of 10. Alright, and there's my review of Survivor Kaôh Rōng. So if you have seen Survivor Kaôh Rōng, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. And make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more content to come in the future. Next week, hopefully we'll be talking about Survivor Millennials versus Gen X, which is the first season I ever reviewed on my Facebook page. So yeah, that'll be a fun season to talk about, but make sure to subscribe for that and for more videos to come in the future. And until the next video, once again, my name is the California Cougar. And always remember, stay California cool. Peace!